Hi there. Today's book, Moscow X by David McCloskey, who previously wrote Damascus Station, which I reviewed. And Mr. McCloskey had been an analyst for the CIA, so he brings a lot of inside knowledge to his books. The second book, Moscow X, is not a sequel really, because the only character that appears in this from the previous book is Artemis Proctor, who was the station chief in the previous book, and she starts off as station chief or chief of station in Moscow. There's a Russian operation, a scandal, and she's returned to Langley and put into what's called a penalty box. Her career takes a bit of a pause. She starts working for a section called Moscow X, which is aimed at disrupting Russian activities. So her dual aim is to get a career back on track, but more importantly, to get revenge against the Russian enemy. The Damascus Station was, apart from being a terrific spy story, was a love story. But there's not really much love in Moscow X. The characters have rather more devious intent than love. And what a cast of characters we have. We have Sia, a full name of Hortensia, who is of mixed South African, Brit and American heritage. She's an American citizen, and she is a CIA NOC, a non-official cover officer. And she's embedded in a private bank in London which handles a lot of Russian gold and Russian finances. Max is an FNO, a foreign national officer. He's Mexican, and he runs a very prestigious horse breeding ranch in Mexico, which for many years his father and grandfather before him worked for the CIA and were able to offer support services in many ways from his international enterprise. And the book does give you an awful lot on horse breeding, horse riding, in general, the world of professional equestrian matters in a very interesting way. Then on the other side we have Anna, who is both almost a counterpart to Saya. She is a intelligence officer working for the SVR, the Russian external intelligence service, but she also works in a bank. Her husband owns a large bank which funnels a lot of making money around on behalf of the various oligarchs, and she works for that bank, but she is actually an SVR officer as well, and it enables her to go overseas and use the natural cover of being a banker. And her father owns massive resources. He's an oligarch, former KGB. And he has a rival oligarch whose nickname is Goose, who is deeply connected to the FSB, which is the Russian Domestic Security Service, and he is the gatekeeper for access to Putin. And the story starts with a raid on Anna's husband, Vadim, his bank, by the FSB, who come in and just offload tons of gold. And they say it's a national emergency and it's for the Rodina, for the motherland's use. But actually it's for goose. And this sort of kicks off resentment, and it gives Proctor back in Moscow X the glimmer of an operation aimed at causing dissent and disruption and putting various factions against each other in Russia. And from there, the plot develops. Anything as every bit as complex as the best of John le Carré in plotting and in laying out the structure of a story. It's not difficult to follow in a way. It captures you, but there's a lot of moving parts. And the characters are brought together, but neither side really know if they are recruiting or being recruited. And the FSB operate with corrupt cruelty, and many of our characters are really put through the mill in a very, very harsh way. And I won't spoil it by going into any further detail than that. But it's a classic spy story in the great tradition, but it's bang up to date. And a big delight for me in reading it was it goes into Saya's previous training in what Mr. McCloskey calls Tier 1 tradecraft course, which looks like it was formerly the internal operations course for the pipeliners going into denied territories such as the old Soviet Union. But all the old methods of counter-surveillance beloved in spy fiction and also in spy fact, the methods taught by the major agencies had to be revised. They're totally obsolete in the digital age because everybody carries phones and other digital devices with loads of apps which are emitting a trail of digital breadcrumbs which the surveillance agencies can utilize for tracking and for eavesdropping. And switching off or neutralizing or ditching those devices is as big a reveal as carrying them. It tells everyone that you're in the business and they're just going to focus on you even with more vigor. So bang up to date and a real eye opener, and the difficulty of operating in that environment is shown in those chapters where Saya has to pass many training exercises, each one pass or fail, and one failure off the course. And she comes through and is one of a small handful who are able to do it. In preparing for this review, I watched an interview with David McCloskey on Jack Carr's channel. Very, very interesting. And one of the, I'll put a link to it, and one of the points he makes, Jack Carr asks him about the publications review process of the CIA, because Jack had to go through it with the Department of Defense, and he said it's a long, lengthy, and sometimes very, very difficult process to get across just what has already been open sourced. And Mr. McCloskey said it was quite easy. He said they didn't really object to much at all. He said, but one of the things they did object to was the terminology of within the CIA, the Russia House, which is the department obviously targeting Russia. But he pointed out it's just a colloquial expression. It's not in the actual organization charts, and it actually was invented by John le Carré in a book of that name, and it was adopted by the people who actually work for what would be the Russia House in the CIA as a kind of doff of the hat to the spy fiction genre. So I thought that was rather amusing that they were objecting to something which is A, fiction, and B, has been the title of a book and a film. The interview is well worth watching too. So once again, David McCloskey's come up trumps with his second book. It's every bit as good, if not better, than the first one. He really does show a remarkable knowledge of the genre, and I really look forward to his next work.